Hello and welcome to Vidhigya. So let's start with our daily analysis of the Indian Express newspaper followed by The Hindu, dated 20th of January. So the first news which we'll be discussing is Supreme Court pulls up states over low COVID-19 ex gratia numbers. So herein it is important for us to know, to get an idea, to know that what is ex gratia. So in the month of June last year, the Honorable Supreme Court had directed NDMA, that is National Disaster Management Authority, to direct some amount or some fund to those people or the families of those people who have died because of this COVID-19 pandemic. So what NDMA, that is National Disaster Management Authority, has done, they have finalized that an amount of rupees 50,000 should be paid as an ex gratia amount to the family members or to the nominee of the person who died in this COVID-19 or because of this COVID-19 pandemic. So the amount which was finalized was 50,000, and the burden of this amount has to be borne by the respective state governments. Means the center is not bonding or not giving funds for the same. The respective states and union territories have to give funds, have to pay with respect to this particular amount that has to be paid under ex gratia amount of rupees 50,000. So what's this news is, so it's been nearly 6 months that this process has started, and the payment in a lot of states and union territories has already been started with respect to this COVID ex gratia amount. So herein the problem, what Supreme Court has found is, in few of the states, in some of the states, it has been found that applications has been received by the authorities, respective state authorities, which grants amount for 50,000 rupees. But on technical grounds, a lot of the time or a lot of applications has been rejected. So in this particular news, Supreme Court has directed the states and union territories that on the basis of technical grounds, if any technical ground or if there is a failure on the part of the application, then sufficient amount of time has to be given to that individual, so that individual within a period of 7 days can rectify and again submit his application request for this COVID-19 for this COVID-19 payment, which has to be paid by state government. But the biggest the states which are lagging behind in this particular thing is basically Andhra Pradesh and Bihar, wherein the number of applications they had received is comparatively lower. So it has been asked by the Honorable Supreme Court that most of the states are receiving more number of applications than the number of deaths. But this is unlikely in the case of Andhra Pradesh and Bihar, wherein they are reported more number of deaths in comparison to the number of applications that they received for this payment. Apart from this, the Honorable Supreme Court has also directed the chief secretaries of both the states, Andhra Pradesh and Bihar, and they had directed that steps should be taken, and if on the basis of any technical failure the payment has not been made, then the government the respective state government need to rectify the same and need to pay the amount which has to be paid under this particular thing. The further elaboration has been given on second page. You can read the same. Then the second news on the first page is, study says by itself Omicron does not boost immunity level. So ever since we have encountered this COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen this kind of situation at the time when we have seen the initial variants, that is alpha variant, which has got originated from this United Kingdom, UK, then beta variant which got emerged from South Africa, then delta variant which was quite deadly from India, then the current Omicron variant which we have seen from South Africa. So whenever a person was getting infected from any of these variants, then after taking proper medication and keeping that person under quarantine, then antibodies were developing in that particular person of that particular variant. But this is not the case with Omicron, and it has already been said, and this study has already been done which has revealed this fact, that if you are not vaccinated, even though there are major chances that you can get infected to Omicron, and even if you are infected, it is less likely that the antibodies are going to develop, and which will eventually help you in further mutants if there is any. So this has been found in a recent research which has been done by a US research agency. Okay, so the further elaboration, as I had already told you, you can read the same, you will get the clarity. Okay, this we can skip. This is the city part. Okay, this is election. Okay, so this news is important for us, that PM, Honorable Prime Minister, to host virtual summit for Central Asian leaders on January 27th. So earlier we were discussing this thing in news that we have invited on several occasions. We have seen even our Honorable Prime Minister had visited in the year 2015 during NDA first regime all the Central Asian nations, right? So ever since we have seen this Taliban had captured Afghanistan, then the situation had changed. So out of these 5 Central Asian nations, 3 shares boundaries with Afghanistan. So to keep or to have an influence or a stake of India in these Central Asian nations, what India has done, our External Affairs Minister, he had a in-person meet at Delhi with all the foreign ministers of all these Central Asian nations, 5 Central Asian nations. So what are the name of these 5 countries? That is Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan and Kyrgyzstan. So all the leaders, the Foreign Affairs Minister has met, and we had made this thing clear that on our Republic Day celebration we will be inviting the leaders or the presidents of all these 5 Central Asian nations on as chief guests on the eve of our Republic Day celebration, right? But then we had seen this COVID-19 pandemic, and the cases have started increasing not only in India but in overall world as well. So keeping that thing in mind, it has already been said that the amount of the number of people who are attending usually before pre-pandemic and during pandemic this Republic Day celebration will get reduced, and the Central Asian nations leaders which will be coming, even those people, they will not be coming in person. Even our Honorable Prime Minister and the other senior dignitaries will be having a virtual meet with those Central Asian leaders. So on January 27th, that is after one day of our Republic Day celebration, our Honorable Prime Minister will be meeting the leaders or the presidents of all these 5 Central Asian nations in a virtual summit which is going to be held on 27th of January, right? So this news is important. Then second news on the right hand side of this news is 12 Maharashtra BJP MLA suspension, Supreme Court reserves judgment. So this why this news we are discussing, because we have recently seen this suspension of member of parliament in Rajya Sabha. So that's why there was a huge protest even during the winter session of parliament in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha both as well, right? So this thing has happened in Maharashtra's assembly, wherein 12 opposition party's leader, that is a BJP leader, they were expelled because of their behavior in the particular their state assembly, state legislative assembly. So that's why steps have already been taken. So what and there they have also, these 12 member of legislative assembly MLAs of in Maharashtra, they have also got suspended for a year's time. So what these petitioners, these member of legislative assembly MLAs of Maharashtra have done, they have went to the Supreme Court, the apex court, with respect to this particular suspension, and now Supreme Court has made this decision that this is not right, that you can suspend these leader of opposition for 12 months. Earlier also these things had happened, but the tenure should not be more than 6 months, but this is not unlikely the case. So why I have highlighted, as I told you, because of the recent suspension of the member of parliament in Rajya Sabha as well, and these 12 Maharashtra BJP leaders which have got suspended. So this thing is not so important from our examination point of view, this GA per se, but for legal section this might be important as a contemporary topic. So you can read about this as well, this news. Then boundary dispute, Assam Meghalaya CMs to meet Shah. So the Assam's Chief Minister Sri Hemant Biswa Sarma and Meghalaya's Chief Minister Mr. Conrad Sangma, they have already demarcated this 12 boundary areas wherein they are having conflicts, both the states, and the CMs of both the states had already met with respect to solving the ongoing dispute which is going on. So as Meghalaya will be celebrating its 50th statehood day, so before that both the CMs of the respective states, Assam and Meghalaya, will be meeting our Honorable Union Home Affairs Minister Mr. Amit Shah in order to resolve half of the disputes. Means 12 out of the 12 disputes, 6 disputes will be resolved at the earliest when they will be meeting the Honorable Home Affairs Minister Mr. Amit Shah. Then another news, expert panel clears Covaccine, Covishield for market nod. So till now we were seeking if I tell you about the maximum number of inoculation or the vaccination that has been done, is primarily Covishield and Covaccine in India. Majority of the chunk is nearly 70 to 80% has been done by Covishield only, right, which has been developed by Serum Institute of India, Pune based company. So now the subject expert panel has recommended that these vaccines, that is Covishield and Covaccine, though we have given this emergency use authorization to these particular vaccines, and the government is keeping a track on those people who are getting vaccinated, and even on those people who are getting vaccinated, a proper vaccine certificate has been developed. So all these things the government is doing. But now, even after 1 year and getting all the research done and getting the data done, so what the supreme this subject expert committee, panel has recommended that now it's time that we can for the sake of availability and proper as the production is already going on at a good pace of Covishield and Covaccine. So what we can do is, till now the government was restricting, or the only government was authorized to send these vaccines. Now we should authorize that these vaccines like Covishield and Covaccine can be made available to in the markets as well. Means the local market, your local you can say this medical as well, these vaccines should be available. So that's why they have cleared both these vaccines. But DGCI, that is Director Control of Drugs, which is the apex authority under this, they will be seeking more data and will finalize whether they are going for this decision or not. Okay. Now the first editorial. Today, both the editorials what we'll be discussing in this in the Indian Express discussion, both will be somewhat relating to this upcoming elections in Goa, and the second editorial which we'll be discussing is about this that ongoing dispute which is going on between or the upcoming elections, caste-based elections, or the elections which are going to held in Uttar Pradesh. So, on the first editorial, what the author is trying to say that. It has been seen out of a majority of the elections, 7 out of 13 elections in Goa, this has been seen that coalition governments are formed. Goa is a state, a small state which constitutes of nearly 40 assembly seats, and earlier last year, when at the time when we had last time when we had seen elections in the year 2017, wherein late Manohar Parrikar, former defense minister as well, adjudged as the chief minister who lately died. So even at that time, the majority of the seats in that or the majority party, single largest party was Congress in that, but still Congress was not able to get through, and BJP, though winning only 13 out of 40 seats, still with the coalition government able to become or able to make its own chief minister in the state. They have made coalition with 2 other parties, and then nearly 10 MLAs of Congress party have also joined BJP. So all these things have happened in Goa, and this is not the new thing. And even this editorial has been divided into 2 phases. First, it's talking about about Goa, how the things have changed, and second is about the anti-defection law, which we should be aware of, right? What is anti-defection law? How this law has been amended or is made applicable. So, in the first phase, how the governments have changed, how things have changed in Goa, and now as we have seen that a lot of parties, especially BJP, Congress, then Trinamool Congress under the leadership of Mamata Banerjee, Srimati Mamata Banerjee, and Aam Aadmi Party, all these political parties are also part NCP. So nearly 10 to 13 parties are there which are contesting elections in Goa. So though being a small state, but still a lot of political parties are there which are contesting elections there. So this has been said in the second phase of this particular editorial, that because of the anti-defection law, or because a lot of parties shift, because or the lot of it has been seen in Goa and other states as well, that a lot of times the member of legislative assemblies or MLAs shift to different political parties in order to safeguard their own interests, their own political aspiration. So that is not right on the part of the state or the government, because people have voted for a party, then that person got shifted, so that's why it creates a lot of problems. So that's why in this particular editorial this has been discussed by the author, that anti-defection law which is working, and which needs to work, so that these member of legislative assembly MLAs should not get shifted to different political parties. So that's why it creates a chaos when a ruling government or a government needs to be formed. So even ever since we have heard about the announcement by Election Commission that elections are going to held, so in most of the poll-bound states, we have seen that a lot of persons are shifting from BJP to Congress, Congress to BJP, so and vice versa things are happening, right? So this has also been talked about by the author in this particular editorial. Then a second editorial is a new alignment in UP. Possible consolidation of OBC identity could pose a challenge for BJP. So this is also about the upcoming election, which is going to held in Uttar Pradesh, wherein it has been seen that still, even after, as I already told you, even after more than 70 years of independence, this year we'll be celebrating 75th years of independence, completing 75th of years as independence. But still, especially the big states like Uttar Pradesh, which is having nearly 80 Lok Sabha seats out of the 543 seats which we are having, but still there is a major chunk of population who depends or who votes keeping in mind caste when they are voting, especially in states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. So this has been talked, and in this particular editorial, the caste with which Mr. Yogi Adityanath belongs, and for BJP they mostly belongs to, this has been said that in recent parts farmers are not happy with those, and if I talk about Samajwadi Party, then that political party is broadly dependent on the Yadav vote bank and the Muslims. Then if we discuss about Bahujan Samaj Party, then they are focusing upon Dalit vote bank and Brahmin vote banks. So this has been said that even after a lot of time, still things are, especially with respect to Uttar Pradesh, if we discuss, then caste plays a critical role when an elections are going to held, and even at the time when we have discussed about this EWS category criteria that has been recently been mandated. So under that news also, under caste-based OBC category as well, Bihar, Maharashtra, all the political parties have also united with respect to this particular thing. So that's why in this particular editorial, the author is trying to say about, or have discussed about, the upcoming elections which are going to held in Uttar Pradesh and how caste plays a prominent role with respect to the elections in UP. Then first opinion, look in and out. UPA has much to answer for in Devas and tricks, but government should take on board international rulings. So this news is basically about the recent deal or the recent controversy what we have seen between Devas and Entrix. Devas is a private company which got incorporated in the year 2004, and the at length discussion of the same which we have done in our yesterday's analysis as well on 19th of January, right? So Entrix, which is an arm of ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization. So recently what has happened, that the three petitioners, they had went to this Montreal court in Canada, and so that's why this whole case again got piled up. So now this news we need to understand in two phases. First is that this would create a problem, or this would hamper the if the Indian government, because this case has already been filed in international arbitration. So earlier also, at the time when Vodafone K Energy case was done, then even at that time India was at the receiving end, and it tarnishes or damages the image of Indian government. So this is also another case which might hamper the image of Indian government. And second thing is about politics. What the ruling party or the BJP is doing, they are criticizing or they are opposing the former government or the UPA second government under Mr. Manmohan Singh. Under his tenure, this whole incident has happened. So that's why this has also been criticized by the government, that now it's high time that both these things should be catered in order to resolve this particular dispute which is going on between this Entrix and Devas deal, which has happened in the year 2005. Then second is tests matter. Center has done well to nudge states to increase testing. Conflicting signals from ICMR guidelines must be sorted out. So this news is basically about the ramping up of testing. This Union Ministry of Health Affairs has already directed all the states and union territories to increase up or ramp up testing, because in a recent past 5 to 7 days, if we see, there is a decrease in terms of cases in few of the states, right? Though the overall caseload has already been increased, we are seeing more than 3 lakh cases. That is true, but still the number of testing is getting reduced. So that poses a problem, because if more testing is not going to happen, then we might able to will be able to detect less number of people who are already infected with this pandemic, right? So what needs to be done? Already the Union Health Ministry has already directed that if we compare the current situation with the previous one or the second wave, the testing was done at its peak. Means on a daily basis we were doing testing of nearly 3 million people. But this is not the case with the current situation, wherein we are running between around half of the testing if we compare it to second wave. So it's high time that if we want to combat this COVID-19 pandemic, then we need to follow COVID appropriate behavior. We need to go for vaccination, and the another thing which is quite essential, that is we need to ramp up this particular testing process, testing method, so that we will be able to detect more and more people. So this has been talked about by the author in this particular opinion. Then on the world section, Al-Qaeda's links with Pak-based terror groups continue to grow. India at UN. So our India's permanent representative at United Nations, Mr. T.S. Tirumurti, has made this statement that ever since this incident of Afghanistan has happened, and even if I tell you about the attack, the 9/11 attack which had happened in the year 2001, so ever since this particular incident has happened, we have seen the rising influence of Al-Qaeda, which got shattered. But now, ever since we have seen this, that Taliban had captured Afghanistan, now they are shaking hands, their relations are getting better with Al-Qaeda, then other terrorist organizations like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. So all these things poses a problem on on not only India but other nations as well, overall world as well. So that's why this has been talked about by Mr. T.S. Tirumurti at the United Nations, and he also cited that terrorism should not be associated with any particular religion or with any nationality or any civilization or any ethnic group. This has also been said by Mr. T.S. Tirumurti in the address that he had made at the United Nations. Then UK's Johnson defies calls to quit. Basically, ever since we have seen this Omicron variant, the UK government is incapable of handling this present situation in their respective country. So that's why there is a huge outrage, and many people are asking for or saying about that the Prime Minister of UK, Mr. Boris Johnson, should quit at the earliest. Even it has been alarmed even within party as well, the party at which of which Mr. Johnson belongs. Even his own parliamentarians are of the opinion that this is high time that Mr. Johnson should quit because of his incapability of handling this COVID-19 pandemic, or the current pandemic which we are encountering. Then this news is about the ongoing conflict which is going on between the Russia and Ukraine. So wherein the first news is Blinken urges unity to fight relentless Russian aggression. This is basically the call of US Secretary of State Mr. Antony Blinken, who had visited recently Ukraine with respect to the ongoing dispute, and he had a word with the president, the Ukrainian president, Mr. Zelensky, right? And they had discussed on different issues. And second is about Russia will take nothing less than NATO expansion plan. So North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is an umbrella body, and which is working and which has already said that they are planning to induct both these nations, that is Georgia and Ukraine, in their NATO. And so that's why Russia was opposing the same. And the recent updates was, we are already discussing that nearly a million troops had went to the borders which borders Russia and Ukraine. So that's why it's posing a problem that how these nations are going to help this particular crisis which is being happening. So that's why US has intervened, and even NATO nations has intervened, and they are holding different talks in order to solve this ongoing dispute which is going on between both these nations. Then the first explained the debate over marital rape. The Delhi High Court is hearing a challenge to the validity of the IPC provision for marital rape immunity. Why is the provision in place? What rights does it infringe on, and what are the arguments before the court? So basically this news is about marital rape. This explained is about marital rape, wherein recently we have seen a lot of petitions with respect to the same. It's basically about marital rape, means after marriage. Till now, the person, the male person, he was exempted, and that was not comes under the permit of rape. So now, ever since this news has surfaced, then we are seeing the earlier laws which have been made, and whether these laws should be amended or not. So all these talks are already being formed, and a separate committee has already been formed, Mr. Verma committee, which is overlooking the entire situation. And earlier also the decision, when the decision with respect to the same has been made, the Supreme Court and the center has already cleared that will exempt this marital rape under the category of rape. So now this is recently been again made in controversy, and the earlier rape cases what we had seen in the year 2012-2013. So that's why now we'll be seeing that what all things which will be done with respect to this particular news. Then you can read this as well. Houthis and the war in Yemen, in which Indian lives have been lost. So basically, in Abu Dhabi, UAE, we've seen the recent attack, the drone attack, which has been done by Houthis, and which are being supported by Iranian government, right? So then again, these people, they have retaliated. The Saudi Arabian government, they have also retaliated, and even they have done a strike. But the biggest problem what has been done is two Indian nationals have died in this particular incident. So that's why our External Affairs Ministry has already cited reasons, and our External Affairs Minister had a word with the Saudi Arabia External Affairs Minister, Foreign Minister, with respect to this ongoing airstrike which has been happened, or the drone attack which has happened in that country, which has led to the death of two Indians as well. So here we ends the discussion of Indian Express. So now we'll move forward to The Hindu. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, so the first news is COVID death, Supreme Court to steer payment. So this news we had already discussed. This news is basically about this this ex gratia amount. What is ex gratia? We have already discussed that 50,000 amount, rupees, a sum of 50,000 has to be paid to the kin or to the family members of the person who had died because of this COVID-19 pandemic, which authority Supreme Court has directed NDMA, that is National Disaster Management Authority, and it should be noted that the payment has to be borne, or the amount has to be paid by state government, not the central government, under COVID ex gratia payment. Okay, this we can skip. Okay, so now we move forward to the first editorial, that is what Vladimir Putin really wants. So he is a Russian president. The West cannot ignore a determined Russian president as anymore as Moscow's prepare for its next act on Ukraine. So you must be hearing, or we are already discussing this news about that is ongoing dispute between Russia and Ukraine on a daily basis. So this particular editorial, a wonderfully written editorial, in which it has been mentioned that why Russia is going for this, or why is Russia retaliating, or is on an attacking side in the ongoing dispute between both these things, because they have learned earlier the lessons, because ever since Soviet Union got disintegrated, and the rising influence of USA, wherein the power which has shifted, right? So because of all these things, and earlier also USA under the NATO has already said that will not expand, will go in the similar fashion, but still that their expansion does not get stopped. And even the recent updates that what they have said about that they will be inducting Georgia and this Ukraine in their particular NATO, or this organization. So that is not right. So why Russia is opposing, why these things is happening, and why whenever it has been asked by Russia that what's your stake, or are you going to again take back your people, your troops which are there, which are stranded, more than 1 million troops you had already got stranded on this particular Ukrainian border. So now what has been said, the reason why this is happening, so all these things have already been mentioned, that there is a reason. And earlier also, when Soviet Union was in power, their main focus was on acquiring more and more territory. But at the time when they were in power, they were able to do this. But ever since they got disintegrated, and a lot of countries got disintegrated from this particular Soviet Union, then we have seen the formation of CSTO, that is Collective Security Treaty Organization, right? So then the rising influence of Russia got decreased, and even their territory has also decreased. So that's why whenever they shares boundaries with these nations, and with few distance. There is not much distance. If I tell you about distance between Ukraine or Georgia with Russia, that is very less. So if these countries or a neighboring country gets into NATO, and the main motto of NATO is, if any of the country in NATO which is a part of member nation of NATO have seen any attack on themselves, then it is the attack on whole of the people or whole member countries of NATO. So that's why Russia has always opposed the induction of not only these two nations, or not Ukraine, but even earlier also, whenever this thing is news that we'll be inducting more and more nations in NATO, At that time also, Russia has always opposed this move which has been taken by USA or these countries. So that's why Russia is doing this, because of gaining its influence in Central Asian region as well, wherein it shares its boundaries, and even in Europe as well, right? So that's why Russia is, though it has been on an attacking side, but they are doing this for the sake of maintaining or keeping their own territorial integrity intact. Otherwise, the way NATO is expanding and having powers like superpowers like USA in that particular organization, it always poses a challenge for the countries like Russia, that how they are going to tackle the situation of maintaining peace and harmony, especially with respect to the bordering nations which were having with Ukraine and all these other member countries. Then first opinion, all in the fray. Goa polls will see relatively new contenders against established parties. So a similar kind of news we had already discussed, that 7 out of 13 times we have seen that this the government which has been formed in Goa is under coalition, and so that's why it has, we always see that a lot of political parties contest elections in Goa. The reason is, if you won 1 seat, 2 seat or 3 seats, that also helps you like anything, because it might make you chief minister, or it might helps you in gaining a big cabinet post or a minister post. So that's why we always see that nearly 13 to 14 parties or 10 to 13 parties nearly participate or are there in the poll bound states which are going on in Goa. So in this particular opinion, the author has cited the same thing, that parties like BJP, Congress, NCP, National Congress Party, under the leadership of Mr. Sharad Pawar, and Aam Aadmi Party, TMC, and even the local parties of this Goa, they are also part of this particular campaign which has been going on in the upcoming elections. Then no foreign dignitary as chief guest at Republic Day event. This we had already discussed. Our Honorable Prime Minister will be having a virtual summit on 27th of January with the leaders, with the presidents of all these 5 Central Asian nations. Then this is political, upcoming elections in UP. Then new COVID cases cross 3 lakh mark. Yes, still, even the reason is, even the government is emphasizing on the ramping up of vaccination, and even ramping up of testing. Still, the COVID-19 cases in our country has increased more than 3 lakh, and this is the first time we had crossed the 3 lakh mark ever since we have encountered this COVID-19 pandemic. And states like Maharashtra, Kerala, and Gujarat, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, all these states are continuously seeing a surge in terms of new COVID cases in their respective states. Then full market approval for vaccines recommended. So this news also we had discussed, that the approval of Covishield and Covaccine for their particular for selling in market in general as a private use. So that's why it has been recommended by the committee, and DGCI will see all the nitty-gritties of this particular news, that whether they are going for this nod or not. Then special camps to register workers on eShram portal. So eShram portal, this has also been directed by Supreme Court as well, that a portal separate, because ever since we have encountered this first wave and second wave, and which were quite drastic. So that's why those times we had seen this kind of a situation, that a lot of migrant workers had got shifted from urban areas to their native places, right, from cities to their villages or their homes, right. So it poses a problem that how to give employment again to those people who are at their home. So that's why Supreme Court has given orders to the union government to make separate or the center to make a separate portal wherein the database of all these migrant workers can be uploaded or can be maintained. So eShram portal is the name of that portal, and now the Union Minister of Employment and Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Mr. Bhupendra Yadav, he has made this thing clear that special camps would be set up in order to make this a database for these unorganized sectors. So under this center's eShram portal. So eShram portal is important from an examination point of view. We might encounter a question in our AILET or other elite entrance MCQ wise examination. Then Taliban seek Muslim nations recognition. So ever since Taliban is in power in Afghanistan, and this is not the first time Taliban is in power in Afghanistan, right? We should be aware of that. Even from the year 1996 to 2001, Taliban was already in power in Afghanistan, and the way they have handled the situation there, and the minorities, the children, the women, they were hard hit under their regime. So that's why now what the Prime Minister of Taliban, this Taliban regime of Afghanistan, Mr. Mohammad Hassan Akhund, he had a conference in Kabul, the capital city of Afghanistan, wherein he had urged all these Muslim nations to start giving recognition, because none of the nations still, ever since from 15th of August Taliban is in power in Afghanistan, none of the countries has given due recognition to this regime or this Talibani government. So that's why he has urged, the Prime Minister has urged the governments, mostly the Muslim nations, that it's high time that you should recognize us, so that in order to maintain peace, what we have already said, that ever since we have come to the power, that we'll take care of the needs of minorities and all the people who are living in Afghanistan. So we are keeping up to our promise, and now it's time for you to recognize us as a country. Then Israel to probe Pegasus spying allegations. So Pegasus is quite important from our examination point of view. It's not only in India, but even in US and UK, other nations, Australia as well. We have seen issues with respect to Pegasus, which is an Israeli spyware which belongs to NSO group, right? And which is exclusive for government purpose only, in order to maintain the national security. But the allegations has been made even in India as well, and even in US as well, and even on Apple phones as well, right? If you are aware of. So now even what the Israeli government has said, that they will be having or they will be having a separate probe which will look at the allegations which have been made under Pegasus, not only in India but even in their country itself, that is Israel as well. Then Johnson faces revolt within party. So this has been this also we have discussed, that Mr. Boris Johnson, the current Prime Minister of United Kingdom, is facing huge outrage because of incapability of handling this current COVID-19 pandemic. So that's why what all these not only from the opposition leaders, but even the leaders or the member of parliaments who belongs to his own party are also opposing and are also asking indirectly or directly to resign from his post.